Welcome, this is Coach Dorf. We're in section 3.4 and we're doing a homework-like example. Here we're going to find the derivative of this function g of x equal e to the negative x cosine of x squared. So I always start by writing down my function. So g of x equals e to the negative x cosine of x squared. The first thing I see when I look at this problem is not only is it a chain rule, because we're in section 3.4 and we are talking about chain rule problems, but this is also a product rule, because what I have here is I have this function e to the negative x times this function cosine of x squared. So I first have to do the product rule when I take the derivative. So let's see, let's take the derivative. So g of x is going to equal, so I do the product rule. The product rule says I do the first, so it's e to the negative x times the derivative of the second. So that's the derivative of cosine of x squared plus the second cosine of x squared times the derivative of the first, e to the negative x. All right, so we haven't even done the chain rule yet. We've just done the product rule. Now, let's work on this. So I've got e to the negative x. Now I'm going to do the derivative of cosine of x squared. Here's where the chain rule comes in. So what do I get? I do the derivative of cosine. The derivative of cosine is negative sine, and I keep what's in the parentheses times the derivative, d dx, of what's inside the parentheses. Okay, that's the chain rule. Now what goes inside the parentheses? In this case, in both cases, it's x squared. All right, and then continuing, I have plus the cosine of x squared. All right, this is continuing the product rule part. And then I have the derivative of e to the negative x. So what's the derivative of e to any power? It's going to be e to that power, and then by the chain rule, times the derivative of what is in that power. And now what's in that power? In this case, it's a negative x. All right, so continuing here, we have e to the negative x times negative sine x squared. And then I have to take the derivative of x squared, which is 2x, plus cosine of x squared, and then times e to the negative x times the derivative of negative x, which is negative 1. All right, so let's simplify. Let's kind of write these things together. I'm going to take this negative sign here, put it out front. So I have a negative there, and it's often useful to put often common to put the 2x there up front next. And so then I'm going to have e to the negative x sine of x squared. And on the second part, I've got a negative, so I'm going to put that out front. So negative. And then I'm going to put the e to the negative x out front, and then the cosine of x squared. All right, that's a perfectly fine answer. Some people would prefer to maybe factor out what they have in common. So I could also write the answer as noticing that they both have a negative and they both have an e to the negative x. If I factor that out, I'm left with a 2x sine x squared for the first term, plus, remember it's going to be plus because I factored out the negative already, cosine of x squared. So either of those answers, either is correct. All right, hope that helps.